Hey guys, Dr. Arland Hill out at Harvest Hills Ranch. We like to try to grow the best grass we can for our cows to keep their plane of nutrition as high as we can keep it throughout the year. However, there are some things that stand in the way of us always being able to do that. One of which is compacted soil. Now, you don't have good soil structure, you can't get the grass roots to grow down, and the soil biology just doesn't work with the plant. Hey guys, I am Dr. Arland Hill, and I have a passion for all things nutrition, health, wellness, and ranching related. And we're going to be talking today about some ideas of how we're going to address compaction around here so that we can push the weaker areas in our pastures, how we can get the grass to become more productive. Now, I've tried a couple of things over the years and they haven't been all that successful. And just to give you an idea of what we have tried, we've tried to use things like overseeding and planting turnips, daikon radish, things that have large root systems so that they can break that up. The problem is you actually have to have good soil to seed contact to get those things to take off, and in compacted areas that just doesn't really work all that well. Our particular situation here has been that the pasture I'm in right now, there's two ponds in this pasture, and when they dug the ponds out, they got down in the clay, and then trying to level everything off, they pulled the clay back over into some of the pasture area, and of course clay is going to compact a lot easier than sand. And so that's what we're dealing with in a couple of areas here. Now, I'm doing a mix of things this year, and we're stepping outside of the box, and both of these were quite honestly a bit outside of my comfort zone. But you know what, after 4 years of not making any headway, I'm willing to start looking at some other things at this point. So what are we going to do? Well, the first has already taken place, and just to give you guys an idea, it's going on mid-February right now. So our grasses, especially in the pasture that I'm in and I'm going to be sharing with you, these grasses aren't growing anymore. The cows have eaten down the stockpile to what's been available to them. And so I've got them, actually you can see them in the background back there, they're on hay right now. And so we took that hay that they were foraging on, or that they were using as their forage, and we put that in some areas, and I just kept bringing the hay back to that area on their hay wagon. And as cows are, they will pull a little hay off, eat it, stomp some of it in the ground. There's just never going to be 100% use on that hay. And I thought, you know what? Even when the rains come, I'm going to hang them out, and I'm going to let them hang out in that area, and they're just going to stomp all that in the ground. Because I've noticed when I pull those wagons away, that hay wagon away, got two of them back here for them now, there's a lot of seeds on there, on those wagons. And I thought, they've got to be knocking a good bit of that off. So we're letting the animals do part of the work for us, but I can't very well do that for the entire pasture. That's just not realistic. So I had to come up with another option of how we're going to try to attempt to do this year. And this piece of equipment that I'm sitting on goes by a couple of names. Some folks call it a Pasture Renovator. Some folks are going to call it a Ripper. And irrespective of what you call it, it's going to be helping to break up some compaction. Now, here's something to think about on this compaction conversation, because we can't leave the biology out of this conversation, and frankly, you can't even leave the chemistry out of this conversation. It'd be nice just to be able to run this piece of equipment through the ground and rip this thing apart, rip the ground apart where it's compacted at, but that's not going to be the end of the story here. We're also going to have to come behind this and plant. We're going to have to try to address some calcium deficiencies in here so we can loosen that soil up. So there is a chemical biological component to this as well, but we're hoping by pulling this structural piece of equipment through the ground and breaking up the physical structure that we can at least jumpstart some of that biology and chemistry in our favor and working for us here. Now, one thing I am absolutely not a fan of, and the reason it took me a while to really get to the point where I was willing to do this, is I have no desire to disrupt the biology in our soil. I don't want to disturb those microbes. They have a network that they've built there, and those fungal species predominantly and some of those bacteria, they're working to pull nutrition into those plants. But right now we're in the dormant season. That's not happening as it would be in the warm season. And frankly, with this ripper, I'm not turning the ground over. For the most part, I've already ripped one area previously here, and I go behind it and I look, and you can see the lines through the field, but nothing has been, or through the pasture, but nothing has been turned over. And so I have a bit more comfort with that. I can pretty much feel like after looking at that, that the first time I turn the cows back into that area, they're going to begin to cover up some of that area, or pat down where the area started to open up a little bit, and just where we've got some maybe aeration going on for us right there. So I don't feel like at the end of the day that we've really disturbed this that much. Am I doing this to the entire ranch? No. I've selected where the problem areas are at, and that's where I'm going to focus my attention with this implement. The areas that are sandy, have loose soil, frankly, I don't see the value in doing it in there. So, maybe I'll play around with this in a year or two and just see if it works out for these compacted areas. We can see what it does in the sandy area. But frankly, I think the issue there always has more to do, in a hot climate like this, has more to do with keeping an adequate amount of organic matter, carbon in the ground, more so than anything else. So with all that being said, guys, I'm going to jump in the tractor here, and I'm going to take you along with me as we rip up these areas here and see what transpires with this. Hopefully it will kick our grass production in some of these weaker areas into high gear, and hopefully it does, because that way we'll put a little more gain, a little more fat on these guys back here in the warm season. And hey, you know how a cow is. A cow loves to eat. You put grass in front of them, it's a good day for a cow. So all that being said, I'm going to hop up here and get rolling. There you have it, guys. That's what the process of ripping the pasture looks like. It's not a lot to it. But I did notice, as I suspected, that we have some fairly heavy clay areas that definitely need some attention. And that's when they dug this pond behind me and they pulled that clay off and tried to level everything off. Well, they pulled it over the sand, and hey, maybe we'll get a mixture of the sand and the clay and get the benefits of both. So, hey, I appreciate you joining me. I hope you found this information and this process today insightful. This is just a way that we're trying to continue to support the pastures. Who knows? Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Only time will tell, but we'll find out. But I thought I'd bring you along with me today and see it. The little area that you saw me rip there, that's about what I'm going to do for that area. I may do one or two more passes there, but that's going to be the end of that. And the rest of that portion of the pasture, it's fine. It's not having the same issues, so we're going to leave that alone and let it go. And it's been producing, so no reason to think that it won't continue to produce with good management process and adaptive grazing, right? I mean, these areas, this is, I guess, an important point to mention. These areas that I'm ripping right now are, when the cows are there, I'm more attentive not to make sure that they don't overgraze in the warm season, and we generally end up moving them a little faster through that just to ensure that we don't make that area bare, make the situation worse than what it could be. But nonetheless, time will tell. We'll see where we go with all of this. Hey, I appreciate you sticking with me today, joining us, seeing what we're doing out here at Harvest Hills Ranch. If you are looking for more information about what we do, regenerative agricultural principles, and how we apply those, you can go to harvesthillsranch.com and find out all about what Leah and I do, the things that we raise, and the processes that we use to do that with. And like I said early on in the video, we do this, and we started Harvest Hills Ranch with the intention of increasing nutritional value in the food, knowing where our own food came from, and also being able to provide a higher quality product for the people that we serve and that we produce food for. And so that all goes up the chain to human nutrition, which is what I do on the clinical side. I help patients optimize their overall health and meet their wellness needs. So if you're interested in that content, go to drarlandhill.com. You'll find out all about that there. Until next time, guys, we'll see you soon. Dr. Arland Hill.